Good morning, this is Dr. Patrick live, and this morning we're going to talk about something that's highly controversial. Because here's what we know. People who choose to use cannabis, right, are advocates of it. Anytime there's anything negative about it, they slam it, they attack it, they have their point of view. And I understand that, right? Because for so long they've been ridiculed, attacked, and the research just is in its orphan stages, right? It's just sort of beginning, infant stages. And so there's not a lot of research to back up what it is you're doing. Then there's the people that believe there's no purpose to it, right? It's illegal, it should be high classified drug, there should be nothing about it, right? And then there's this middle group that tries to say, what's the research, right? What can we prove? What do we know? So I kind of fall in the middle, right? I'm not an advocate and I'm not an opponent. I'm somebody that wants to know, look, if there is research that can help somebody, then we should be helping somebody. So there is research, right? Whether it's about cannabis or CBD oil, right? There are some uses for it, right? And, I've done a couple of videos on that. But today we're going to talk about one of the dangers. I'm 55, right? So when I was in high school and people used cannabis, right, there was no way you could get addicted to it. The THC levels were so low, right, that there wouldn't be a lot of permanent potential damage. But through time, right, people have learned to raise the level of the THC, and the THC levels now are, through the roof. It's much more potent. As a result, in the state of Colorado, there's people who've OD'd on marijuana, right, on cannabis. And people would say that's impossible. But they did it primarily by using edibles. They ate too much because with an edible, right, there's a delay before it gets kicked in. And then it kicked in and it kind of slowed them down and they just died, right? And that's documented. So it is possible, right, that is there. Well, that alone, right, says, okay, something has changed about cannabis, right? But as bad as that is, and that could be bad, right, there's another thing that's starting to show its ugly head. So a few years ago, right, I had this client come into my office, and they were basically hallucinating all the time, right? Everything was fine, except everywhere they looked, they would see spiders, and they would feel spiders and see them on themselves. When they did the research and tried tracing back all the stuff that had happened, they realized that she had used cannabis, and for whatever reason, it had created this psychotic break in her mind. And now she was dealing with this psychosis, and it was ongoing, right? It wouldn't end, right? And so we had to help her kind of process through that. I had a 13-year-old, right, who had an episode like that. He had been smoking, and then all of a sudden he had this psychotic break, right? And now he had this psychosis, and he was doing things, seeing things that weren't there. There was a guy that was walking down the highway, right? And he was naked, and he was out of his mind, and he had been smoking, and he had been smoking for a long time, but this particular day, it kicked in, and now he was in this psychotic episode. So I see quite a few people, right, who used cannabis, and some of them will swear like, I've always used cannabis, never had a problem, and then all of a sudden one day they do. And so there's a diagnosis that they received called Cannabis-Induced Psychosis. Cannabis-Induced Psychosis. And what Cannabis-Induced Psychosis is that because cannabis is an hallucinogen, right? A lot of people when they use it will say they're more creative and all kinds of stuff, because it does kind of open up that weird kind of part of your brain. It can also kick into gear two things that we don't really want. It can kick in psychosis, and we don't know why. We don't know who. We just know some people will use it and experience the psychosis. And it's not because of, hey, it's been watered down or there's another drug in it. Yeah, that can be terrible. But the THC itself can cause psychosis in some people. We just don't know who. We just know that some people will have it and then they have to deal with it. If you've had the THC psychosis, right, that means you can't use THC at all ever again, because now your brain is going to be going in that psychotic way, right? And some people don't like that fact, but that's a reality. So that's one aspect. There's another aspect that within all of us are some aspect of the schizophrenia gene. And for some people, using THC will activate that gene and really move us from having a normal thinking pattern into schizophrenia. And once you move into schizophrenia, there's no moving back. Now your brain has permanently changed, right? So this cannabis induced psychosis can lead even worse, right, to schizophrenia. So you have to be aware that this is a possibility, and so you have to be extremely careful. And if you tip into that psychosis, you have to understand you're done. No more use. That's just the way it is. You can get online, Google, read the research on it, right? It's becoming a bigger and bigger issue for a lot of people. THC is a very potent drug, right? Just like every drug, even though it's natural, right? It's not natural in its state that it intentionally was, right? Normally, in its natural state, the THC levels weren't that high. So we took a natural substance, right, and amped it up. That's what we do, right? We destroy the goodness of a lot of things by creating like lab versions, right? And so the lab version it affects what the real product was. So if you could go back in time, right, there would be no psychosis, but now there is. And you have to understand that is a real disorder. So if you know somebody struggling with it, right, pass this video on to them, educate them, help them to understand there is a real disorder that's connected with cannabis. You have to be careful. So look, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll do our best to talk about it. If you think this video has helped you, like it, subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more. We really talk about all kinds of issues affecting the brain, some issues of faith even, some issues of just like how do we get through life, right? And hopefully a little humor thrown in from time to time just as a break, because sometimes that's just too heavy. Also, you can check out our TikTok channel. The TikTok is, I don't know how many people, viewers on it, you know, it's just different. Short, concise, but it's there, right? It's also Dr. Patrick Live. So, and Instagram as well. So anyhow, more than anything, remember that you have the power, right, to encourage another person. So whatever you do, right, when you come in contact with another person, seek to encourage and uplift them, because together we truly can change the world. So hey, peace. Doc out.